topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to Powerful Business Strategies, where you will find out that everything you have ever learned about growing your business is wrong. Finally, a show where you'll learn the right way to grow your business by learning business and financial strategies that your competition isn't doing. And now, here is your host, President of Next Step CFO, Michael Barbarita. And joining Michael for today's show as an executive moderator is Chuki Obiyo.
Yes, this is Chuki, and I believe that gratitude is undefeated and growth is about the next step. It is an honor for me to moderate today's discussion with my good friend, Michael. Michael, how are you?
Fantastic, Chuki. Thank you. My name is Michael Barbarita, President of Next Step CFO. And Next Step CFO is a fractional CFO and strategic implementation firm. And business owners hire us to double and triple their profit using business and financial strategies that their competition isn't doing. And our vision is to ensure that overwhelmed business owners achieve the time freedom and consistent profits to build a legacy and the life they desire, while our mission is dedicated to guiding small business owners to leveraging their time, exploding their profits, and building a meaningful legacy. This show, Powerful Business Strategies, in our book of the same name, is a step toward accomplishing that vision and mission. So with that, I'd like to hand it back to my co-author and moderator for the show, Chuki Obiyo.
The title for today's show is really intriguing. So, Michael, here's the title: The Change Paradox, Why Business Owners Resist the Very Solutions That They Need. And Michael, I've got to say, given a lot of the feedback that we've been getting from business owners through the years, you might provide some powerful insights today. I think, Michael, are you prepared to change lives today, Michael?
I am prepared to change lives and perspectives.
Okay, there you go. I love that. So look, before we jump in, folks, Michael and I were both affiliated with a number of different organizations. I currently serve as a managing director of business development for Vedder Price, a global business-focused law firm. In addition to that, it's truly an honor to collaborate with Michael to moderate business roundtables and document best practices from these roundtables. In fact, we packed all of those best practices into our book, Powerful Business Strategies. But please note that the views expressed on this show are our personal views based on those successful experiences. My mission today as a fearless moderator is to ask the right questions to help you, the listener, learn the best strategies that the competition isn't doing. With that, back over to Michael.
Thank you, Chuki. So before we begin today's show, I do want to clarify that while I will be discussing some psychological aspects of business ownership, I'm not a psychologist. Neither Chuki or I are psychologists or mental health professionals. And the insights that we share come from our experiences as business advisors and fractional CFOs, not from any clinical expertise or perspective. If you're experiencing significant distress related to your business, I do encourage you to seek that support from qualified mental health professionals. So business owners, I see the late nights, the constant worry about cash flow, the missed family events because something came up at work. I see the weight of the responsibility you carry for your employees, your customers, and your family. But here's what I know to be true. You didn't start your business to become a prisoner to it. You started it to create freedom, financial freedom, and time freedom, and the freedom to make your own choices. And the gap between where you are and where you want to be isn't about knowledge. And it's not about working harder. It's about your relationship with change. Today, we're going to explore why even the smartest business owners resist the very changes that would set them free. And more importantly, we'll show you how to break through that resistance to create the business and the life that you truly want. And your breakthrough isn't just possible, it's waiting for you on the other side of change. So let's discover it together. And let me start by addressing something that might sound a little counterintuitive. The greatest obstacle to business growth isn't external, it's internal. And I've worked with hundreds of business owners across dozens of industries, and I've observed a really interesting pattern. When I ask owners what's holding their business back, they typically point to external factors like lack of capital, tough competition, maybe even challenging market conditions, economy, and that type of thing, or even staffing difficulties. But here's the reality that I've witnessed time and time again. Two business owners in the exact same industry facing identical market conditions with similar resources can achieve dramatically different results. And one remains stuck in constant firefighting mode, working 70 hours a week to just stay afloat, and the other builds a thriving enterprise that operates smoothly even when they're not present. And the difference isn't market conditions, competition, or even capital. It's their relationship with change.
Interesting.
So think about it. Have you ever noticed yourself knowing exactly what you should do in your business, yet you're not doing it? And maybe it's implementing the new customer management system, or finally delegating something like bookkeeping, or raising your prices to reflect your true value. These changes would improve your business, but something always holds you back. And this is what I call the change paradox. The tendency is resist the very solutions we know would help us. And I'm experiencing this firsthand in my own business journey. I mean, this show to me is like a therapy session for myself as well. I need to delegate more to create better systems and focus on high value activities. And I could even articulate exactly what needed to happen, but I kept falling back into old patterns, and I keep falling back into old patterns. Doing everything myself, working longer hours on low value activities, and wondering why nothing's changed. So I'm realizing that my resistance wasn't logical; it was emotional and psychological. I'm not avoiding change because I don't know what to do. I'm avoiding it because change, even positive change, triggers uncertainty, and uncertainty triggers fear. And it's our wiring. Our brains are wired to prefer the certainty of current pain over the uncertainty of potential improvement. It's not rational, but it's deeply human. And this insight is changing my approach to business growth, both for myself and for my clients. And I recognize that implementing effective business strategies isn't just about knowing what to do. It's about navigating the emotional terrain of change. Yeah. And today, we'll explore three primary barriers that keep business owners stuck in patterns that no longer serve them, and practical strategies for overcoming these barriers, because when you change your relationship with change itself, everything else becomes possible.
Michael, this is absolutely fascinating, and I'm just jotting some notes down here. Look, you mentioned that resistance to change, and I really want to dig in on this. Now, that resistance to change is not logical. It's emotional. It's psychological. Can you elaborate on how specifically this shows up for business owners?
Yeah, sure, Chuki. So the emotional resistance to change kind of manifests in very specific patterns that I see over and over again among business owners. And one of the most common is what I call implementation delay. A business owner will invest in learning a new strategy. They'll attend a workshop. They'll read a bunch of books on it. They'll hire consultants and get generally excited about implementing changes. And then they'll even start planning the implementation. But then something happens. Urgent client issues arise, employees need attention, or some other emergency demands focus. And the implementation gets pushed back a week, then a month, then indefinitely. And what's happening beneath the surface is that the brain is manufacturing distractions to avoid the discomfort of change. It's not conscious sabotage. It's a subconscious protection mechanism. And another pattern is perfection analysis. The owner convinces themselves they need more information, more planning, more resources before they can begin. I'll delegate when I find the perfect person, or I'll implement that system once we're less busy. And this appears rational on the surface, by the way, but it's actually the brain creating plausible excuses to maintain the status quo. And then a third pattern is what I call the comfort zone pull. After briefly venturing into new territory, perhaps delegating an important task or implementing a new process, many business owners experience a strong urge to revert to their previous patterns. And they find themselves micromanaging the person that they just delegated to, or bypassing the new process. And they'll say to themselves, I'm bypassing it just this once because it feels uncomfortable to operate differently. And these patterns aren't signs of weakness or lack of commitment. They're natural human responses to change. And when business owners understand that these responses are normal and predictable, they can develop strategies to work with these tendencies rather than being derailed by them. And so let's dive a little deeper into this first major barrier that prevents business owners from implementing change. And it's what I call the identity anchor. Your identity, your sense of who you are, is one of the most powerful forces influencing your behavior. And for business owners, their identity is deeply intertwined with their role in the business. They're the problem solver, the expert, the person everyone depends on. This identity has likely been reinforced for years, creating a strong sense of self tied to specific behaviors. And when a change threatens this identity, even when that change would be beneficial, it creates profound psychological resistance. It's not just about doing things differently, it's becoming someone different. That's the fear. And let me give you an example. So a skilled craftsman built a successful custom furniture business, and he knew he needed to step away from production and focus on growing the business. But every time he tried to delegate crafting work, he felt physically uncomfortable. He'd find himself taking tools out of employees' hands to show them how it's done, or even redoing their work after hours. But when he dug deeper, he discovered that his entire sense of self was wrapped up in being the craftsman who makes exceptional furniture. The thought of becoming just a business owner felt like he was losing his identity, even though intellectually he understood it was necessary for growth. So this identity anchor was keeping his business stuck, and then him along with it. And he was working those 80-hour weeks, and the business had plateaued because he couldn't scale beyond his personal production capacity. And the breakthrough came not from pushing harder at delegation, but helping him expand his identity to include master craftsman who builds both beautiful furniture and an exceptional team. And this subtle shift in psychology or name or whatever you want to call it allowed him to see developing craftspeople as an extension of his craftsmanship, not a replacement for it. And within 6 months, he had successfully delegated 70% of production while maintaining high quality standards. And more importantly, he found genuine satisfaction in his new role because it aligned with his expanded identity rather than conflicting with it. And this pattern repeats across industries. The accountant who can't delegate client work because I'm the numbers person, the marketing consultant who can't hire other creative people because my ideas are what the clients pay for, the contractor who can't let go of site visits because I'm the guy who ensures quality. The key insight is that lasting change requires identity evolution. When you try to change behaviors that are tied to your sense of self without addressing the identity level, you're simply fighting against one of the most powerful sources in human psychology. So how do you overcome the identity anchor? Well, here are 3 practical strategies to do this. First, practice identity expansion rather than replacement. Don't try to stop being that expert craftsperson or consultant or technician. Instead, expand your identity to include developer of other experts or builder of systems that deliver expertise. This allows for growth without loss. Second is find role models who have made similar transitions. Connecting with others who have successfully evolved their identity creates both a roadmap and psychological permission for your own evolution. These could be mentors, they could be peers in your industry, historical or public figures even, whose stories might resonate with you. And then third, create identity affirming rituals for your new role. If you've always derived satisfaction from hands-on work, find ways to experience similar satisfaction in your own activities. This might mean celebrating team achievements as enthusiastically as you once celebrated personal accomplishments, or creating visible metrics for business growth that give you the same tangible feedback as completing a project yourself. Remember, changing what you do without changing how you see yourself creates internal conflict that almost always results in reverting to old patterns. But when your actions align with an expanded sense of identity, change becomes not just possible, but natural. Chuki, I think I see a question from a listener.
Yeah, really impactful stuff, Michael. So let's by the way, there are actually quite a few questions from listeners, but Michael, let's just go with this one. You mentioned this idea of identity evolution and how powerful it is. So let's explore that. When a business owner recognizes the need to expand their identity, how long does this process typically take? And what might they experience as part of that transition, Michael?
Excellent question. Well, identity evolution, it's really an overnight change. It's more like growing into a new version of yourself gradually. In my experience working with business owners, meaningful identity expansion typically takes 3 to 6 months to begin feeling natural through the timeline. Although the timeline does vary based on several factors, how deeply entrenched the current identity is, how different the new identity feels, how intentionally the person approaches the transition. So during this transition period, business owners typically experience what I call the identity stretch. It's a sometimes uncomfortable period of holding both the old and new identities simultaneously. And it's similar to how a trapeze artist must hold on to their new bar before fully releasing the old one. And this stretch period often includes predictable phases. Initially, there's usually experimentation, trying on new behaviors that align with that expanded identity, but still having the safety net of established identity to fall back on. And a business owner might delegate an important task, but still check frequently, or they might raise prices for new clients while maintaining old rates for existing ones. And then next comes a phase of what I call oscillation. See, moving back and forth between the old and new behaviors as the person experiences both successes and setbacks. I know I do this a lot. During this phase, business owners often report feeling like they're faking it in their new role, even when they're performing it well. But this imposter syndrome is a normal part of the identity transition and certainly not a sign of failure. Yes. And finally, there's integration. When the expanded identity begins to feel authentic and natural, the business owner no longer has to consciously think about operating from their new identity. It becomes who they are. And what's interesting is that this transition follows a predictable emotional pattern. There's typically an initial excitement about the possibilities, followed by a valley of discomfort when that novelty wears off and challenges of change become apparent. This is where many people abandon the process and revert to the old pattern. But those who persist eventually reach what I call that plateau of a new normal, where the expanded identity feels increasingly comfortable. Supporting business owners through the valley of discomfort is one of the most valuable things a business advisor can do. And so with the right support and expectations, the transition period becomes manageable, even if it's not always comfortable. So before I continue this discussion, we're going to take a 90-second break.
Hey there, business owners. Let me ask you something. Are you tired of blending in with your competitors? Frustrated with slow growth and slim margins? Well, I've got news for you. Everything you've ever learned about growing your business is wrong. But don't worry. I'm here to let you in on a secret weapon, your position of market dominance. It's what sets you apart, makes you irreplaceable, and has customers lining up at your door. My name is Michael Barbarita from Next Step CFO. I know what you're thinking. Sounds great, Michael, but how do I find my position of market dominance? Well, that's exactly why we've created our game-changing implementation program called Next Step to Market Dominance. In just 90 days, we'll guide you step by step to a position of market dominance by uncovering your unique strengths that competitors can't touch, by crafting a message that resonates deeply with your ideal customer, by building a strategy that turns you into the go-to expert in your field. Now, this isn't theory. These are battle-tested strategies that have helped businesses like yours double, triple, and quadruple their revenue. Don't let another quarter go by struggling to stand out. It's time to dominate your market, period. Go to nextstepcfo.net/contact, fill out the form, and in the message section, put the word dominate. Or call us at 781-326-3822. That's nextstepcfo.net/contact, or call us at 781-326-3822.
Welcome back. And remember, any part of the show you may have missed, or if you're driving, you can go to powerfulbusinessstrategies.com and check out all of our replays. So now let's explore the second major barrier to change, what I call the control illusion. So many business owners, they struggle to implement changes because they're trapped in the illusion that directly controlling every aspect of their business creates security. In reality, this approach creates exactly the opposite. It builds a business that's perpetually vulnerable because it depends entirely on one person. The control illusion manifests in familiar statements. No one can do it as well as I can. By the time I explain it, I could just do it myself, or I can't trust anyone else to handle this correctly. These beliefs seem rational, but they mask a deeper emotional attachment to control as a safety mechanism. So a financial advisor who was working 70 plus hours weekly because he personally reviewed every single transaction, every single report, and every single client communication. When I asked why he didn't delegate more of this work to his qualified team, he explained that his meticulous oversight was what kept the business from making costly mistakes. But when he finally analyzed actual error rates, he discovered something surprising. In areas where he had reluctantly delegated due to absolute necessity, the error rates were actually lower than in areas he personally handled. So why? Well, because his team had implemented systematic quality controls while he was relying on mental focus that inevitably faltered after long hours. His tight grip on control wasn't creating the security he thought. It was creating a single point of failure, which was himself. And more importantly, it was preventing him from doing that high-level work that would actually secure the business's future, like strategic planning and key client relationship development. The irony of the control illusion is that trying to control everything actually puts your business at greater risk because it creates scalability limits that constrain growth, knowledge silos that make the business vulnerable if the owner becomes unavailable. It creates decision bottlenecks that slow response times to market changes, and it creates owner burnout that threatens the business's very existence. And breaking free from the control illusion requires really a good understanding that real security comes not from controlling everything yourself, but from building systems and teams that maintain standards even without your direct involvement. So here are 3 practical strategies for overcoming the control illusion. First, start with a control, what I call a control audit. So identify everything you currently control and categorize each item as either only I can do this based on unique skills and legal requirements, others could do this with proper training and systems, or others could do this immediately. And this audit often reveals that surprisingly few tasks truly require the owner's direct control. Second, implement progressive delegation. So rather than taking an immediate leap from complete control to complete delegation, create a staged approach. For example, a marketing agency owner might move from personally writing all client proposals to reviewing proposals before they're sent, then only reviewing proposals above a certain dollar value, and then finally just auditing a sample of proposals periodically. This progressive approach builds comfort and confidence gradually, reducing the anxiety that triggers resistance to change. And it also allows you to refine systems and training before fully releasing control. Third, develop control alternatives that provide security without requiring your direct involvement. These might include things like checklists, quality standards, approval thresholds, regular audits, or performance metrics. These tools give you confidence that work and will meet your standards without requiring your constant presence.
Yeah.
So a business owner in the construction industry created a photo documentation process where project managers sent him daily site photos with annotations. And this simple system gave him visibility into project quality without requiring his physical presence at every job site, allowing him to grow from 3 simultaneous projects to 12 while actually improving quality standards. And this fundamental mind shift is from I need to control everything to ensure everything is done to standard. The first approach requires your constant involvement, and the second allows for systems and teams to maintain standards, creating true security and scalability.
Michael, this is profound insight. In fact, let's take on a question from a listener just related to this. So some business owners might worry that implementing these systems might make their business feel impersonal, rigid, maybe even robotic. How do you help them maintain the human touch while reducing personal control?
Yeah, that is a legitimate concern and deserves some thought. So the goal of systemizing isn't to create a cold, robotic business, but to ensure your human touch can reach more people in a sustainable way. And that the solution lies in what I call value-based systematization, an approach that captures not just what you do, but why and how you do it. And this begins with explicitly identifying the human elements that make your business special. Perhaps it's the way you listen to customers. Maybe it's the extra attention to certain details, or maybe even the flexibility you offer in certain specific situations. But once identified, these elements are deliberately built into your systems and training. For example, a healthcare provider was concerned that delegation would compromise the personal connection she had with patients. So instead of just creating clinical protocols, she developed connection points, specific moments in the patient experience where team members were trained to provide personalized attention in ways that reflected her values. And another effective approach is to strategically reserve your personal involvement for high impact moments while systemizing routine operations. So, for example, a real estate agent implemented systems for transaction management and property marketing, but continued to personally deliver good news to clients and handle difficult conversations. This allowed her to maintain the personal connection where it mattered most while freeing up enormous time previously spent on administrative tasks. And finally, remember that well-designed systems actually enable more consistent delivery of your human touch. And without systems, the quality of customers' experience often, it just varies. Their experience varies based on how busy or tired the owner is. With appropriate systems, your values and approach can be delivered regardless of circumstances. The businesses that most successfully balance systemization with personal touch don't view these elements as contradictory. They see well-designed systems as the very thing that enables their human values to scale beyond the business owner's personal capacity.
Michael, it's
another question?
Yes, it's absolutely remarkable. Michael, as you know, one of the things that we're focused on in this show is powerful action, right? So there's a question that goes to the heart of that. For business owners that are deeply entrenched in the control illusion, what's one simple, powerful experiment that they could start to do, right, to loosen that kind of grip without triggering overwhelming anxiety, Michael?
Excellent. Yeah, that's a good question. Well, for control-oriented owners, I would recommend starting with what I call a controlled release experiment. So it's a deliberately small time, limited exercise in letting go that minimizes risk while creating an experience of successful delegation. So let me give you an example of how that works. So you select a single specific task that you currently control, but that has these three characteristics. Number one, it's relatively low risk if something goes wrong. It has clear success criteria, so results can be objectively measured. And it's something that consumes your time regularly. So examples might include drafting customer emails, preparing routine reports, handling certain customer service inquiries, or managing social media posts. Next, identify someone on your team with the potential to handle this task and create a simple but clear process document, just 1 or 2 pages outlining how you currently perform the task and what success looks like. And by the way, you can use AI. Remember that. Then implement a 3-stage release. First, have them shadow you doing the task. Next, have them do the task while you observe. And then finally, have them perform the task independently, but with immediate review. And the key psychological safety feature is setting a specific time frame for the experiment, perhaps just 2 weeks, with a predetermined evaluation date. This assures your control-oriented brain that this isn't permanent and that you'll have an opportunity to assess the results. When I implemented this approach with a controlling marketing agency owner, we started with just one client's weekly social media content. And after a 2-week experiment, showed equal or better engagement metrics than his own content. And he was ready to delegate more. It was just a confidence builder. And so within 6 months, he had released control of all routine content creation. By the way, they used AI as well, freeing over 15 hours weekly for strategic work. And the beauty of this approach is that it creates an evidence-based pathway away from the control illusion. And rather than trying to convince yourself intellectually that delegation works, you develop concrete experience that challenges your control assumptions, making the next step considerably easier. So before I continue this discussion, we're going to take a 90-second break.
Hey there, business owners. Let me ask you something. Are you tired of blending in with your competitors? Frustrated with slow growth and slim margins? Well, I've got news for you. Everything you've ever learned about growing your business is wrong. But don't worry. I'm here to let you in on a secret weapon, your position of market dominance. It's what sets you apart, makes you irreplaceable, and has customers lining up at your door. My name is Michael Barbarita from Next Step CFO. I know what you're thinking. Sounds great, Michael, but how do I find my position of market dominance? Well, that's exactly why we've created our game-changing implementation program called Next Step to Market Dominance. In just 90 days, we'll guide you step by step to a position of market dominance by uncovering your unique strengths that competitors can't touch, by crafting a message that resonates deeply with your ideal customer, by building a strategy that turns you into the go-to expert in your field. Now, this isn't theory. These are battle-tested strategies that have helped businesses like yours double, triple, and quadruple their revenue. Don't let another quarter go by struggling to stand out. It's time to dominate your market, period. Go to nextstepcfo.net/contact, fill out the form, and in the message section, put the word dominate. Or call us at 781-326-3822. That's nextstepcfo.net/contact, or call us at 781-326-3822.
Welcome back. So the third major barrier to change is what I call the competence comfort zone. The tendency to stay within familiar skills and activities where you already feel confident and competent. Business growth inevitably requires owners to develop new capabilities and step into unfamiliar roles. This creates a powerful form of resistance because moving from competence to temporary incompetence feels deeply uncomfortable and at times even threatening. So a successful sales consultant knew he needed to build systems and processes to scale his business beyond just himself. So he had purchased software, he hired an operations consultant, and even blocked time in his calendar for system development. Yet month after month, he found himself filling that time with more sales calls instead. And when we explored what was happening, he realized that sales activities gave him immediate positive feedback. He was excellent at sales, received regular validation through closed deals, and enjoyed the confidence that came with operating in the zone of genius. In contrast, systems development made him feel awkward and amateur. Didn't know the right approach, couldn't see immediate results, and felt his confidence diminish when working in this unfamiliar territory. And he wasn't avoiding systems work because he didn't value it. He was avoiding the uncomfortable feelings of temporary incompetence that it triggered. And this pattern repeats across industries and roles. The technical founder avoids marketing activities. The visionary entrepreneur avoids financial analysis. The operations expert avoids strategic planning. Not because these activities aren't important or they don't think they're important, but because they require stepping outside of established competence into uncontrollable and uncomfortable new territory. The competence comfort zone creates a particularly insidious form of resistance because it often masquerades as productivity. I'm too busy with an important client or important client work to focus on systems. It appears a responsible statement, but may actually be a form of avoiding the discomfort of developing new capabilities. Breaking free from this comfort zone requires understanding that temporary incompetence is not just an inevitable part of growth. It's a necessary phase of developing new capabilities. And every expertise you now possess began with a period of awkwardness and uncertainty. The willingness to move through this phase is what separates business owners who will evolve with their growing businesses from those who become limitations to their own companies. And so here are 3 strategies for overcoming the competence comfort zone. First, practice competence bracketing. explicitly acknowledging when you're entering a development zone where your performance will temporarily decline. This mental framework helps separate your sense of identity and overall competence from your performance in this specific area. So a manufacturing business owner created a literal sign on this office door that read Systems Development Zone. Temporary incompetence in progress was the remainder of the sign. And as a reminder, when he was working on unfamiliar operational improvements, that's what reminded him of that. And this simple practice helped him approach the work with more patient, learning-oriented mindset. And second, he create a competence scaffolding. So support structures that bridge the gap between your current capabilities and your development goals. And these might include working with coaches or consultants, using templates or frameworks, or breaking complex skills into manageable components. And we see this one all the time. A retail store owner who struggled with financial analysis created scaffolding by first learning to review just 3 key metrics with her accountant, gradually adding complexity as her confidence grew. And this incremental approach eventually led to her developing sophisticated financial forecasting skills that changed and improved her business planning. Third, build competence partnerships. These are relationships with others who complement your skills and can support your development. They might be team members, they could be advisors, or peer relationships with other business owners, as I mentioned earlier. A technology consultant formed a peer relationship with another business owner who excelled in marketing skills that he was trying to develop, and their regular exchanges allowed him to learn in a supportive environment while contributing his own technical expertise to his partner's business challenges. And then the fundamental mindset shift is from seeing competence as a fixed state to understanding it as an expanding territory. See, each time you push through the discomfort of developing new capabilities, you not only acquire specific skills, but you also strengthen your overall capacity to learn and adapt. Perhaps the most valuable competence of all for business owners in today's rapidly changing environment. You know that it's change in itself isn't comfortable, but change is required for business growth. And so business growth makes change, and that's uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. Any compliments, Chuki?
Yes, we do. Really energized by our business compliments segment today. So, Michael, in today's business compliments segment, we are continuing our series of highlighting business owners and the great clients and customers that they serve. So look, compliments to MJ Ryan, who gave a business review to Mighty Dog Roofing, Metro West Boston. Michael, embrace this review from MJ. Here's what MJ noted. We were extremely happy with the services provided by Mighty Dog Roofing. The bid for the project was very competitive, and we had no issues or delays with scheduling. In fact, the crew from Mighty Dog Roofing Metro West Boston arrived on time and were extremely diligent with protecting our lawn, our bushes, and the sides of the house from debris. The crew was very courteous and completed the roof project in 1 day, 24 hours. They Excellent. Cleaned everything up, and our roof looks great. How's that for a business review, Michael?
Phenomenal.
Absolutely.
Wish we could all get them like that.
Amen to that. Please note that Anthony and Amy Munchak are the local owners and operators of Mighty Dog Roofing, Metro West Boston, and they are making real progress in becoming the best and most well-known roofing company in the area. For more information, please visit mightydog.com/Metro West-Boston-MA. Back over to you, Michael.
Thank you, Chuki. So as we wrap up today's exploration of the change paradox, let me summarize the key insights that we covered. So we identified three major barriers that keep business owners trapped in patterns that no longer serve. First was the identity anchor, the way our sense of self becomes intertwined with specific roles in our business, making change feel threatening to our very identity. And we discussed strategies for identity expansion, finding role models who have successfully evolved and creating affirming rituals that support new ways of working. Second is the control illusion, the false belief that personally controlling everything creates security when it actually creates vulnerability through single points of failure and scalability limits. We explored control audits, progressive delegation, and control alternatives that maintain standards without requiring constant owner involvement. Third, the competence comfort zone, the tendency to avoid unfamiliar activities that trigger temporary feelings of incompetence, even when those activities are essential for business growth. We discuss competence bracketing, scaffolding, and partnerships as strategies for pushing beyond established capabilities. The thread connecting these insights is that resistance to change is really about knowledge or understanding. Most business owners already know what they should be doing differently. The challenge lies in navigating the emotional and psychological terrain of change itself. And this perspective, it changes how we approach the business's improvement. Instead of just focusing on strategies and tactics, we must attend to the inner journey of the business owner, creating the psychological safety and support that enables meaningful evolution. What I hope you take away from today's discussion is a more compassionate understanding of your own resistance to change. It's not a sign of weakness or lack of commitment. It's a natural human response that every successful business owner must learn to work with rather than against. And the most powerful shifts happen when we recognize that change isn't about doing different things. It's about becoming a different kind of business owner, one who leads more and does less, one who builds systems rather than just completing tasks, and one who develops people rather than just directing them. The evolution isn't easy, but it's the pathway to everything you started your business for in the first place: financial security, time freedom, and the deep satisfaction of building something meaningful that doesn't depend entirely on your personal effort. The businesses that thrive long-term aren't those with the cleverest strategies or the hardest working owners. They're the ones whose owners have developed the capacity to evolve alongside their growing enterprises, expanding their identities, releasing unnecessary control, and continuously developing new capabilities. Remember, the greatest leverage point in your business isn't a strategy or tactic. It's your relationship with change itself. To get a copy of the book, Powerful Business Strategy, simply go to our website, www.nextstepcfo.net. It's totally complimentary. And until next Monday at noon Eastern Time, for Chuki Obiyo, my name is Michael Barbarita, and remember, don't keep doing what your competition is doing.
You have been listening to Powerful Business Strategies, finding out that everything you ever learned about growing your business is wrong. Tune in next week and every week at noon Eastern Time on W4CY Radio with your host, Michael Barbarita of Next Step CFO, and moderator Chuki Obiyo.